I recently added Microcement to my guest bathroom, and I'm gonna share all the deets with you.
Hi, my name is Adriana, and in this video, I'm gonna share everything that I learned about Microcement, where I got the materials, the technique that worked the best for me, as well as all my wins and all my fails. Let me tell you, there were a lot of fails. Halfway through this project, I was ready to just give up and pay someone to come finish this for me, but I'm happy to say that I powered through and I am so happy with the results. It was well worth it. This Microcement bathroom turned out amazing. I get compliments about it all the time, and I'm excited to share with you how I got this done. So keep watching because this is a project that you can definitely do yourself.
Microcement is a concrete-based coating that can be applied over almost any surface. It's made of fine cement and a combination of liquid polymers and resin. It's waterproof and mold resistant, which makes it perfect for a bathroom. I used Surecrete Sure Spray, and for each bag of Microcement, I added 1 packet of the excess colored dry pigment in the color whitewater. Let me tell you, I looked all over the internet for tutorials on how to add Microcement to Curdy board, but didn't find anything. So I had to call Schluter to ask if I could apply Microcement over the Curdy board or if I needed to add something like Red Guard, and they told me absolutely no Red Guard. They said you just apply the Microcement directly on the Curdy board after you've waterproofed it. So with that in mind, I went ahead and mixed the whole bag to get started along with the color packet. From what I understand, Sure Spray's natural color is grayish, so adding this color packet is going to make it a creamy white. I taped off all the corners where the ceiling met the wall and covered everything, including myself. One blog post I read mentioned this was a very messy job, and they were not lying. When you tape, you'll want to remove that tape before the Microcement dries because the Microcement sticks to it and it is really hard to remove. Ask me how I know. Here is what you need to know before applying Surecrete Sure Spray Microcement. Okay, so number 1, the texture is sandy. It is not like skim coating. Just like mudding is an art, applying Microcement is a lot of trial and error until you get the hang of it. I started out with the plastic trowel because I read somewhere that that was what worked for them, but I ended up switching to a 6-inch drywall knife, and I just felt like the knife left a smoother texture compared to the plastic trowel. The good news is you will need more than 1 coat of Microcement, so if you're gonna mess up, you mess up on this first coat. Second, let's talk about the consistency. So you want it to be a little runny, kind of like a pancake batter. You'll know if it's too dry because it'll get chunky and won't stick well to whatever surface you're putting it on. If it's too runny, it's not going to stay on your trowel or knife, and you'll be wasting a lot of it because it's just going to fall right off. So yeah, think pancake batter. Third, keep in mind this is a type of cement, which means it starts to dry pretty quickly, especially if you're not mixing it. I would add a little bit of water and remix about every 20 minutes or so. The longer you wait, the harder it will be to mix. Last but not least, unfortunately, every time you add water to your mix, it's going to dilute the color a bit. My biggest piece of advice is this: try to do a whole wall with the same batch. I knew this before starting, but I didn't think it was a big deal, but it actually is. So you can see here how I did 2 different batches at 2 different times, and look at the difference in the color. The good news is this was my first coat, so when I went to do my second coat, this was covered up, and now nobody else knows but you and me. Now let's talk about this fantastic little tool. It's called a rub brick, and you need one. There were a few areas I wanted to sand down because they looked too chunky. Again, keep in mind the material you're working with here, cement. For these chunky areas, you're going to need a rub brick because regular sandpaper is not going to work. I basically went through and sanded down all the major chunky parts to prepare for the second coat. When you do this, make sure you wear a mask. It's going to get dusty and you don't want to breathe in this dust. Afterwards, I vacuumed everything and wiped it down to prepare for coat number 2. I added a second coat of Microcement on the shower walls only because the rest of the bathroom doesn't necessarily need 2 coats. I let everything dry for 2 days and then I gave it a final sand. I sanded this whole bathroom. Yes, all the walls. The reason is I wanted a smoother surface. While I love the organic look, it did feel a little rough and I just wanted it to be smoother. I don't think sanding is a necessary step, but I'm picky. I could have applied another coat of Microcement, but number 1, I didn't have enough Microcement left to do that. And second, it wasn't all the walls, just sections that I wanted smoother. Plus, I have a good sander hooked up to dust extraction that just makes my life easier. So I use my Festool sander with 80 grit sandpaper to smooth everything out. I went through a ton of sandpaper, 22 pieces to be exact, but it definitely made a difference and made me question my life decisions. But wait till you see how everything turned out, because it was totally worth it. The last part of this phase is the sealer. XS327 is a polyurethane. You need to apply a prime coat before you apply the regular sealer mixture. You're going to use 1 part sealer mixed to 7 parts water, and you're also only to mix whatever you can use in 1 hour. So don't mix too much, because trust me, you will end up with a lot of wasted prime coat because it will thin out quite a bit when you add water. A fellow DIYer who also did microcement in a bathroom suggested using a spray bottle to apply the sealer, and that was honestly one of the best pieces of advice I want to pass along to you. I use this method only for the prime coat. I also covered everything up again with plastic drop cloth since I threw away the covers full of microcement. Here's the supplies I used: a spray bottle, a chip brush, a roller, and a small paint tray. Applying the sealer is kind of like painting a wall. I poured the primer into the paint tray and started by cutting in with a chip brush. Then I used a spray bottle to apply primer to the wall and use the roller to spread it out. Basically, I'd spray and roll. You want the surface to be saturated with the primer. If you see bubbles, you know it's absorbing well. To be honest, sometimes it was hard to remember what areas I had already gone over. Since this is a creamy white, I couldn't always tell, but I figured it didn't hurt if I went over an area twice. I just kept moving along, making sure I didn't let any bubbles stay on the surface. If you happen to make a mess, the sealer is water-based, so the cleanup is just soap and water. I highly suggest you wear a mask and goggles to protect your face as you spray, because as you can see, I didn't do that when I applied the primer, and I actually developed an allergic reaction on my face. Nothing too serious, but I'm just saying, remember to protect your face. Surecrete recommends you do 3 coats of sealer for shower walls. Keep in mind that does not include the prime coat, so in total, you'll actually be doing 4 coats. I did 2 coats on the rest of the walls because again, the rest of the walls don't necessarily have to be waterproof. Once I did my last coat of sealer, I left everything alone. Surecrete recommends you let everything cure for 7 days before using it. I wasn't in a rush to use the shower, so I let it sit for 2 weeks. Then I did the final details like adding caulking to the edges where the microcement met up with the trim or the tub. I'm very picky, so I taped everything off to make sure I had clean lines. It's always worth putting in the extra effort in the details. It really makes a difference. Here's how it all turned out. I absolutely love it. It definitely was a labor of love, and I learned a ton about microcement.
Here's a couple of things that I would do differently. I would definitely start with a smaller space. Taking on a whole bathroom was a lot, especially as a beginner. Everything that has gone into this bathroom remodel has been a learning experience for me. The other thing I learned is that you've got to clean your tools right away. I didn't do that at the beginning and ended up tossing a mixer, and then basically I spent a couple of hours of my life on the second mixer getting it cleaned up because I didn't want to spend the money to buy a third one. I did end up throwing away all of the plastic trowels and the plastic knives that I tried because I didn't like them, and I just didn't feel like I was going to use them in the future. I also threw away one of my metal knives because I didn't clean it and so I ended up having to replace it. A lot of people are curious about how the wall does when it gets wet. It's actually really cool. It kind of reminds me of Rain-X, where water doesn't actually stick to the wall, it just runs right off of the wall. It's super easy to clean, and the best part of it all is there are no grout lines, so I don't have to worry about scrubbing grout lines. It's a very easy material to clean. You're supposed to just wipe it down, if anything, with soap and water, and you're not supposed to use any abrasive materials on it so it doesn't wear off the finish. How long did this take me? It took me 3 months. Yes, it took me a lot longer than I thought because I didn't realize all the steps that were involved in the process. So I started in early November and finished in late January, and as you know, all the holidays that were in between there, we had Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, we were out of town, we had a family over, I had kids home, so it was really hard for me to dedicate a whole day to, for example, doing a whole wall. So it took me a lot longer than I expected it to. Now for the cost, I spent $475 on the materials for the microcement alone. I already had the mixer, the buckets, brushes, rollers, all of those things. The only thing that I spent money on was the actual microcement materials, some of the plastic trowels, which were really inexpensive. And other than that, that's it, just $475. It was much cheaper than tiling. I don't know how much I saved on the labor, but I'm guessing like between $2,000 and $3,000. I've heard that the labor for microcement is high because you have to like be skilled at it. I hope my experience has helped to answer some of your questions about what it's like to microcement a bathroom. At the time of this recording, we have been using this bathroom for a little over a month. My family has been here off and on for the last month, and they absolutely love this bathroom. I will link all of the products that I use down in the description below, as well as a link to my friend's YouTube video where she does a full tutorial on her experience with microcement, and I think you would really find that helpful. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see the final result of how this complete bathroom renovation turns out. So I'll see you on the next one. Bye.